Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, councillors, officers, and members of the public to the meeting of the Licensing and Community Safety Committee. It's a reminder to please switch your mobile phones to silent. There are members of the press attending this meeting virtually, possibly.
She has accepted the invite, but she's not currently on the meeting.
Okay.
Potentially.
So can I please ask those attending virtually to phone to avoid
There
any
we go.
disruption during the meeting? Thank you. The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the YouTube channel. Reminder for councillors, to ensure that those attending virtually can hear the proceedings of the recording to capture the entire meeting, please ensure that you project your voice and speak clearly. Please remember it's a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to councillors or officers by their first names. There is no fire alarm planned, therefore upon hearing the fire alarm, please leave the building via your nearest marked fire exit and assemble at the top of the car park. Sorry, at the top of the top car park. Too many tops in that. Right, good morning. Welcome to the festive edition of the Licensing Committee. There are some candy canes going around if anyone would like to pass them back again.
Yeah, anybody want a candy cane?
Yeah, I might need some I think she's getting vitamin D.
Can we pass it that way or not?
Yeah, go on. Okay, item 1 then. Apologies for absence, please, Oriana.
Yes, Chair, I've received apologies for absence from councillors Wiedemann, Denton, Maskell, Milton. And that was it, sorry.
Thank you. Item 2, to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th September 2024, pages 7 to 12. Hope everyone's had a chance. Can I have a mover, please? Seconder. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Did we get all hands showing?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Find those at the end. Item 3, items brought forward in which in the opinion of the chair should be considered by the meeting as a matter of urgency. I have nothing. Item 4, declarations of interest.
I've received none unless any is declared now.
No, okay. Thank you. Item 5, to agree the agenda between Part A and Part B. We don't have any Part B, so we'll just continue with Part A. Item 6, Verso licensing software update from the Business Information Systems Manager's report.
We've got Richard Fowler.
Yep.
This item online. If I could introduce him. The licensing team have been working alongside Richard to bring into effect a transition from existing software, which is called LAUPAC, which we've used for quite a considerable number of years and been really useful to the authority and worked well in terms of the issue and administration of our licences. Unfortunately, that product's coming to the end of its life, and Richard will update on that. We need to move across. We require some new software for licensing, and the team have been working really hard in the background to test part of that product. Richard's going to give you a bit of an overview of what's been going on and what's to come. It's actually a really exciting project. This is going to be quite transformative in terms of reduction on officer time, automation of some systems that aren't already, but obviously with any new system there are going to be some teething problems, and we're going to have to deal with a number of people that do find it difficult in terms of that transition, and so we're looking to implement a project to make sure those people that will be doing all of their processing in terms of applications online, to make sure they're adequately supported through this period. So we're hoping to go live shortly, and I'll hand over to Richard to give you a bit more information. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, committee. I hope everyone can hear me. I don't think I need to say much more now because Katie said everything. We've been working for quite some time to review our licensing procedures. I apologise. I've got feedback actually, which is really confusing for me actually on my headphones, but I'll carry on as best I can. It's taken us 2 or 3 years to review that's better. I'm not getting the feedback now. It's taken us quite some time to review what path to take, because Our current system has not been developed by Laupac or iDocs, which is the company that took over from Laupac, for quite some time, because they are wanting wanting people to use their other products. The team themselves have been struggling for some time because our current practice and procedures are very old-fashioned. Our application forms are all paper-based on the website, although we have used gov.uk to some success, and that but still the end result of a form or application coming in through gov.uk is that we get a PDF, and the information has to be manually transposed from a form into Laupac, and what we want to do is get away from that. Members of the public historically haven't been able to pay online either at the time of application, which is something we desperately want to move to, and we are somewhat tardy, if you like, in getting to that point. People being able to pay online for services has been available for a long time in many other software applications, and it's something that we need to move to. So after about 3 years ago, we reviewed the offerings on the marketplace, and we looked at our existing providers, obviously iDocs, and we looked at Assure or NEC, which is our core environmental health system, which also offers a licensing solution. And if you like, we looked at some new blood from which is being offered by Rocktime. We had demonstrations and reference sites. We talked to reference sites, and we involved at one point all of the other Devon licensing authorities. They were invited to attend our demonstrations from Rocktime as a new offering, and the staff have been heavily involved, as Katie referred to, in making the choice. After reviewing the technical specification and the offering from the suppliers, we chose Rocktime because it gives us the best modern, up-to-date options for us to deliver our service in the most efficient way that we can moving forward. Our current processes, as I said, are very labour intensive and prone to human error. There's a lot of manual data transposition. The staff in the licensing team sometimes have to check manually by referring to customer services if a member of the public has made a payment. The current payment arrangements aren't ideal as well, because sometimes the payments go missing. It's really pretty labour intensive and just not efficient. So to enable us to make the most of the resource that we have in the licensing team, we have moved to Rocktime, and we've been working with Rocktime for the most of this year to move to this provider to provide all of our licensing forms, which will now be available for the first time online. So members of the public will make all of their applications, as I say, online. So if you like, they're doing their work, the data input for us. So they're doing some of our work. The service is available to them 24/7. And excitingly, they can pay online at the time of application. They have a customer portal which allows them to review their applications and licensing relationship with us, and we can talk to them and liaise with them about their ongoing application through their customer portal. Any documents that need uploading to the software will be done by members of the public. So again, we reduce the need for members of the public to come into customer services and hand in documents for copying or scanning, because members of the public are doing that all at the time of application. So we're going to totally, hopefully, streamline our processes, meaning the staff can focus more on issuing the licenses and delivering the licensing service. Additionally, Katie referred to automation. All the renewals will be automated using Verso. Members of the public get if a client's motor insurance certificate, for example, is coming out of date and needs renewing, is expiring, the system automatically emails them and asks them to upload a new certificate, whereas at the moment that's manual. So it really is going to improve things. Additionally, we have members of staff in customer services doing our renewals for us for taxes. They will no longer need to do that, so there will be a saving or an efficiency there, and that resource can be used elsewhere. And I know that Adam Tape is quite keen, because all of the manual invoicing that goes on at the moment with regard to, for example, our premises licenses and their renewals will all be done automatically. So there's potential big savings in the finance team as well. So it's really exciting. We have been working hard with them, with Rocktime, to make the change. We are about to go live with the first element of the service, which is taxes, the taxi side of things, with the rest of the licensing options or modules following thereafter. Not definite yet, but we're hoping, the aim is that by the end of March we will have as many of the forms live as we possibly can. Although, you know, I can't be absolute about that, but that's the aim. And we are continuing our relationship with our incumbent supplier until then, and we'll give notice to them. We can give 90 days notice to our incumbent supplier when we are in a position to go live, and we know we can deliver the service. I can just demonstrate two things to you on our website at the moment. Our communications team have made a little video showing people how to register, so I can show you that. And then I can just show you an example of what a form looks like. I won't go through the whole form, but just to give you an idea of look and feel. But we like the way they're laid out. They're very clear. And, you know, I hope you like it too. So bear with me while I just make arrangements to share my screen. And then, so this, first of all, I hope you can hear this when it plays, but this is a video which is currently live on our website. We've already sent a newsletter out a few weeks ago to taxi drivers, just telling them about the new system, and that we do expect that this will be the primary channel for application, and generally we will not accept applications in any other way other than through the Verso software. So let's hope this works and that you can hear it.
Can't hear it, Richard. Silence is golden.
Sorry if you can't hear it, but I will just let the video carry on so that at least you can see the screens.
Simple as that,
Okay, I'm really sorry that you couldn't hear that. I don't know whether if Oriana can play it locally there and you'd be able to hear it. I don't know if that's potentially an option. And then that might resolve the issue. I don't know.
So was there more information than it actually, because it was actually sort of like writing it down, wasn't it?
It's just going over that.
Yeah.
So I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's probably just a repeat of that anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can, if you would like me to, I can show you, if I can just find it. Bear with me a minute. I can also. Has it gone now? Hang on, bear with me a minute. I can also show you just what the form looks like in the back end. So this is just the development. No, that's not it. The public. This is just the development site at the moment. So we're obviously not live. We're hoping to go live, as I said, sometime in January. So it won't look like this. The color scheme and everything will be there, but what you're seeing on the screen here is not how it will look. It will look better than this. But people can apply for, as I say, if they were to apply for a taxi driver form, they come here, and then I've actually got an account. So I will just log in. Bear with me. And then from here they can make their application. Okay, and I won't go through the whole form, but I just wanted to give you like a little idea as to the look and feel of the form. It's very clear. It's split into different sections, as you can see numbered down the left hand side, and you have to work your way through each of the sections to fill in the form. So I'll just do a couple of things there. So I'll just say no. The form is intelligent. So if depending on certain things you answer, different other questions will appear based on based on what you say. If you say certain things, it will say to people that you can't make the application or you can't proceed. So what we're trying to do here is use the internet and the website to minimize the number of inquiries we have and let the system drive the whole process. As we proceed through the application as well, you can see on the left hand side we've got the costs, and the costs are charged at submission, and we've linked to the new Civica or corporate payment engine that and that's been recently upgraded, and Verso has been linked to that, and and that is already in operation and is working successfully because we are actually live with HMO applications on Verso. But as far as licensing goes, and the work of the actual licensing team, as I say, we hope to go live in January. I'll just do a few more things here just so you can see as we work our way through the form. Quite in-depth forms. The forms have been tailored to our requirements. Okay, I'll do. I'm just putting in stuff to satisfy the mandatory fields there. If I hadn't answered all of the relevant questions, it wouldn't take me to the next. And then you can see we work our way through the form. Ask for telephone numbers. I'll just put in hopefully that'll be all right. It's linked to the LLPG, so I can put in a postcode here. So if I put in a postcode, that won't work because that's not right. Bear with me. So people can look up their postcode. So we get structured addresses. It'll ask me to select an address. I'll select any address, use the selected address. Move on, and then you can see you plow your way through the form. It gives useful hints and tips, asks all the relevant questions there, gives guidance where necessary. So it'll take me a while to work through the form. I'm sure you don't want to see every page of the driver application, but you get an idea as to the look and feel. In certain parts of the form where we ask for evidence of documentation, I shouldn't. Bear with me. I've just lost it now. In certain parts of the form, as I say, have I lost it now? Apologies. Well, you get the idea. But in certain parts of the form where you need to upload documentation, People can upload all their documents, as I said earlier, and the form won't allow members of the public to submit their application until they have completed all of the necessary requirements. So it means that when the application does come in, we stand a better chance of having everything that we need, rather than having to keep going back to members of the public for missing documentation and things like that, because they can't submit it unless they comply with the minimum requirements of the form. They can save their application at any time as a draft and go back to it, so that's absolutely fine. If they don't submit the form, the system will automatically email them to say there's been a lack of activity here, and eventually it will tell them that if they don't complete their application, the application will be automatically deleted. That helps with spurious applications and wasted applications on the website, which is really useful. As I said earlier, they have a customer portal where they can view all their previous payments. They can view their previous licenses, as well as their current licenses, their current applications, and also where we've asked them a question, or we've asked them to do something within the tasks area of their own customer portal, they can respond, and they get notified if there is something that we want them to do. So this is leaps and bounds better than the current system, which is really strangling us, because, as Katie referred to earlier, iDocs have made a decision not to move forward with LAUPAC and develop it to suit modern day needs, because they want users to use their other stable offerings. LAUPAC has served us extremely well. We've used it for over 30 years in its various guises. Very popular amongst councils, because it was designed and built by local councils for local councils to use, and we love it. Really, it's a shame in a way, but it's going to be sunsetted. It's not going to be continued, and it doesn't allow everything that I've described so far, as well as the automation. To give you an example of the automation that will come in with the Licensing Act when we go live with the licensing forms, with TENS applications, the system potentially offers us the ability to not be involved with somebody giving us a notice of a TEN. If all of the various limits are not exceeded, the system automatically sends out the confirmation of notice, sends out automatically to the statutory consultees the information regarding the TEN, and our staff don't get involved at all. They would only get involved if a limit has been exceeded, like a premises limit or a personal limit. The same with premises license. As I'm sure you all know, they go out for consultation for 28 days when they're received, and we have numerous consultees, statutory consultees, and at the moment Shirley, bless her, has to send them out manually, send them a copy of the application form manually. The system would do that automatically for us in the future. We don't have to get involved with any of that. So it's all about automation, and delivering our service totally electronically. All licenses will be issued automatically by the system by email. We won't be with no need for paper. So we are really excited about this journey, there's been a lot of hard work from everyone involved, and we are so nearly there. So hopefully by somewhere between March and June of next year, we will be fully live with this offering, and hopefully the team and the license holders will benefit from the new service that we can provide, and it really brings us up to date in every way possible. Hopefully that helps you understand why we're doing what we're doing, and as I say, we're very excited about it. If there's any other questions, please ask now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Got any questions, anybody? Councillor Cam?
Yeah, I think you thank
I know
you.
what you're going to say.
You know what I'm going to say. It appears, yeah, so do my colleagues. It appears that there's no other alternative now for any applications to be made other than online. Is that really catering for everybody out there? It wouldn't cater for me on a personal basis. I don't do anything online. And also, is there any way that caters for people that English is not their first language? But I am concerned, very concerned, that everything is going to online when there are people out there, one, that may not have got an internet connection and can't do it. And I feel that there still should be an alternative way of doing things other than online.
Yes, completely agree with you. Jo.
Yeah, you know,
It's
it's taking away, as I said, I'm probably look at Katie now, it's taking away everything. I couldn't complete, and somebody that really hasn't got very good skills in reading or writing, and there are people out there that struggle to do it completely online with no alternative. I don't think we're catering for all of our residents here in North Devon.
Well, I'll let Katie
Yeah.
elaborate further, but we have discussed this with the customer focus group at North Devon Council and Sarah Higgins, and it was agreed that because, if you like, the people that will be making applications are not the general public but license holders, that we are able to promote this as our primary channel of application, and that is acceptable. We are also talking to customer services, and customer services staff have already had sight of Verso, and will offer help within the customer service centre for anyone that needs help with the application. I'll hand over to Katie for further comment there. But we will still offer as much help as we possibly can to anyone that genuinely needs it. But Katie, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Yeah, obviously you raise a really valid point, and perhaps the concerns with applications made outside of the licensed community will be even greater. As Richard alluded to, this is restricted to licensees only. In the case of the taxi drivers, particularly the one that Richard has just run through, we require those drivers to have a high standard of English as a language in order that they can communicate with the public. We require that in order that they can undertake functions in terms of providing small change back to customers. We actually test those drivers by way of the BTEC, who are satisfied that all those drivers have English to proficient sort of degree, so they can converse with the people that get in their vehicles. Moreover, in terms of the testing, we also test Hackney drivers in terms of the local geography, so there are standards required alongside medicals, and also the criminality of those drivers and their fitness in terms of medical and the Group 2 standards. So in terms of looking at the trade, we have in the past required, by way of our taxi and private hire licensing policy, all drivers to have an email, because our correspondence to them by way of newsletter is via an email communication to them. And I think this is a slightly different issue, as Richard's alluded to, in that we're dealing with a specific area of the licensed community rather than the general public as a whole. I think some of your points regarding sort of English as a language may be more pertinent in terms of some of the areas that we don't require that standard of English. So we will be accepting to the future applications online for areas such as personal licence holders for alcohol, for scrap metal dealers, and for other areas of licensing, premises licensing, gambling, and so on and so forth. So maybe that is slightly different in terms of looking at that. In terms of the go live, our first part of this project is solely restricted to taxi and private hire, and we are looking to test that in terms of that area before we then roll out to the other areas. So the feedback is very valid, but in terms of English particularly, we do require that these drivers have that standard by way of the fact that they have done the BTEC. Clearly, there are going to be some of the older drivers and even some newer drivers that don't feel proficient with IT, but we've already mandated by way of the policy that they do have an email, and we will be providing that support by way of customer services and our own officers if there are queries. We've worked already with communications, as you can see, to provide a video online, how they would log in and register to get an account, and also we'll be doing further videos on how to make application for the different licences, so for drivers, for vehicles, and we're going to break those down into bite-sized chunks in line with the sections in the form, and we're working quite closely with Sophie and Communications to produce those videos, which will be a useful asset in terms of provision on our website.
Can I just add as well that the website does meet accessibility requirements. That's one thing that we made sure of. and our web developer at North Devon Council has reviewed it. Also, it may be of interest to the committee that we're not working with, but another council, Bayborough Mid Suffolk, is, if you like, just a few steps ahead of us in going live with this software. And we, conscious of some of the aspects that you referred to, we actually asked Mike Double, if you like, at Bayborough Mid Suffolk, what their experience was in relation to going live, and they've gone live with taxis. And when they during their consultation to their stakeholders, strangely enough, the whole process was actually extremely very well received. The taxi drivers were really positive about it. They were positive about the fact that they could manage their portfolio, they could log in at any time, they could look at their license history, their payments, and that, if you like, they could access the service 24/7. So, although I hear what you're saying as well, experience and feedback is actually that the taxi community is actually very positive about the change of direction.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. The first one is obviously training for the officers. Obviously, you're going to have to be getting in the back end and to be able to.
We've already had
things like that. So and also just on that as well. How much testing has been done by non-officers? Because obviously you're all very competent at using computers, but have we tested it on a section of taxi drivers or whoever to see whether they actually, if there are any problems they're encountering that perhaps you could solve in advance of it going live?
Do you want me to take that, Richard?
Yeah, obviously from the point of view, if you were talking about training of staff, because you mentioned training, but you didn't say whether it was public facing or staff. Staff have already had training. Our staff have already had training in the use of the back end, and we'll have further training just before we go live. And as I said earlier, customer services team have already had training, have had experience and used directly the software. And they have tested the application forms. Angela Webber and her team, not Angela Webber, Andrea Beasley and her team in customer services have pre-tested the public-facing forms and been very positive about their ease of use. So yes, we have tested them on a non-taxi way, and I think customer services are equally as positive and excited about the changes that the delivery will meet. And Kate has already referred to the fact that, and I didn't mention but should have done, that bite-sized videos will be produced on the website, and obviously any staff are available in customer services or the licensing team to assist taxi drivers as they need be. And there's another newsletter going to go out just before Christmas, highlighting the fact that we do aim to go live at some point during January. So I feel really positive about the ease of use of the forms. They're very clear. As I say, the website passes all accessibility requirements, and as I say, so far feedback has been very positive indeed, especially from non-users. And Andrea and her team in customer services, as I say, didn't have anything negative to say about the forms.
And one final question, in terms of, because I haven't seen, obviously you've seen the whole system. There was a menu down the left-hand side. In terms of the selection of the correct application form, is that fairly straightforward? Will they know, the differences between all the different nuances of forms? And
yes, there'll be the menu. As I said, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sorry, carry on. Fine.
All right. As I said earlier, what I showed you is development. It's not live. The website itself will be very, very clear with regard to where members of the public need to go in relation to which type of license they are applying for. So it will be broken down into the relevant sections, taxes, obviously licensing act and so on. And the menu down the left hand side that you referred to is actually different parts of the same form, and so it wasn't different forms, it was different stages of the form, and members of the public obviously can jump between the forms, although technically you have to go through each section of the form at the same time, because as I said, there are dependencies based on how the questions are answered. So the form doesn't waste members of the public's time in asking them irrelevant questions, because if they haven't got something or something doesn't apply, the subsequent questions then don't come into the form. So the form adapts based on the answers that are provided. So that was just different sections of the same form. The actual website will have very clear lines of demarcation when we go live as to which forms are available. And of course, as we've said, and we are using Taxi, as we've already said, Taxis is being used as the guinea pig. We didn't want to go for all go live at once. That would have been silly. So we're going on a careful, slowly approach, starting with Taxis. Taxis are one of our highest transactional areas of service within the licensing team, and we wanted to go live and start reaping the benefits of the new software as soon as possible. Hence, we've chosen Taxis, and licensing or liquor, that side of things will hopefully be phase 2, and then we're going to roll out from there.
Lovely. And one final question I just thought of. You mentioned obviously the different parts of the form. So I know in the past when I fill out forms, you have to go and gather information or something comes up. Can you save the form?
Yes, you can. I did say that earlier. You can save the form as a draft, and you can come back to it at any time.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Richard. Thank you
You're very
for that.
welcome.
And
Very welcome.
going to be saving the members officers a lot of time, so that's fabulous, and a lot more accuracy too.
Yeah, we're very positive. I'm very excited about it. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, Councillor Ledley.
Is Rocktime, is that a British company?
They're based in Poole in Dorset. Yes, they are a British company.
And can I just ask one more? Did any of the other Devon licensed teams go with Rocktime?
No, we're the first in Devon. We're sticking our heads above the parapet. There are a number of other users that are watching us very closely, because there are a couple of other sites now. Originally, all of the Devon licensing authorities used to use LAUPAC. And then for various reasons, they drifted we've drifted apart. There are 2 or 3 other sites in exactly the same situation as us, and having to review their LAUPAC offering. And I know that, and as I said earlier, they were invited to the demonstration of Rocktime, and they liked what they see. And as far as I'm aware, if it goes well with us, they may well go in the same, they may go the same way. But different authorities have different approaches to the software that they use, and it depends whether sometimes, for example, I know some services offer a corporate solution, so everyone uses different elements of the same system. Within environmental health, we've been very lucky within environmental health and housing, and we've been able to choose the software elements that deliver the best service, because sometimes something that tries to be everything to everyone doesn't always deliver the best for some aspects of the service. So we've been very lucky, and we've got the best systems in place for our core environmental health, housing options and homelessness work, and now with Rocktime, I'm extremely confident that we've got the best offering available on the marketplace for the licensing team.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your hard work in transitioning into Verso, and best of luck with the launch and everything. Keep us updated as and when it progresses.
We will. Thank you very much.
Right, okay, we'll move on to item 7 then. It's community safety updates. I'm going to pass over to Tim Birtwistle, please.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everybody. I've got 3 updates for you today. We've got a long update about modern slavery and human trafficking, very brief update about 4 updates actually, sorry. Very brief update about anti-terrorism local profile, a very, very, very brief update about the night bus, and then my colleague Kate Moore, and social behaviour officer, is going to fill you in about what's going on in the world of antisocial behaviour in Devon. So modern slavery and human trafficking. Just to make it clear what we're talking about, human trafficking, the definition is human trafficking involves the recruitment or movement of people for exploitation by the use of threat, force, fraud, or the abuse of any vulnerability they may have. And the reason why this work has come to prominence really is that we were involved in a human trafficking case. Unfortunately, I'm not able to talk any more about it because it's a part of an ongoing police investigation. But earlier this year, there was an incident where we dealt with it. We maybe did everything we had to do statutorily, but it brought out to us that we maybe weren't in a position where we could immediately go, this is our protocol in terms of when we approach with issues of modern slavery. And of course, the international situation and the national situation means that modern slavery may become more of an issue for us in society. It's worth saying as well that human trafficking, people can be trafficked from outside of the UK, also can be trafficked from place to place within the UK. So there's lots of possibilities that could, how this could arrive at our door. And it feels like we need to be have the ability to react to this as soon as it comes to us. The previous issue we mentioned, as I said, we dealt with it, but it was something we weren't in a position where we automatically knew what to do when it arose. So this was the first experience we've had over recent years, but it feels like, as I said, that this might be a growing occurrence. It's difficult because each incident will have its own peculiarities, and whereas it might be under the term modern slavery or human trafficking, each case will be different. So we need to be able to be in a position where we can react quickly to all different types of things that face us. And also, I think it's worth saying that the sort of the seasonal aspect of the North Devon economy, lots of tourism, means that there is the, you know, it's almost like a potentially a breeding ground for people to be exploited, their labour to be exploited because of sort of maybe some unregulated activities around our tourist season. You know, there are lots of seasonal workers, and that possibility for exploitation will exist. And I think with the increasing amount of potentially displaced people, that could land on our doorstep. We work at the CSP, so we're used to working in partnership with other agencies, but I think that this is an issue that is not just for one, you know, it's not just for one agency, it's for the wider CSP agency, but also other agencies that we don't necessarily work with on a day-to-day basis, and that might be child and adult social care, potentially will be involved. I think children's social care will certainly be involved. I mean, children are discovered these, you know, under the realms of modern slavery. So just a little bit about the work that we've been doing over the past recent months and weeks around just getting our response to modern slavery up to speed, really, get to where we want to be. So in middle of October, sorry, we had a meeting in this very room, and we called together all the interested parties locally to have a conversation about what we might want to do about modern slavery. So that included the Salvation Army, Pitlock Foundation, who are an organisation you may be aware of, who help vulnerable people. Sunrise Diversity in Northern Devon, who have got a particular interest in maybe people from overseas or people who don't have English as their first language, people who might be vulnerable to this kind of offence. And also we involved Torres District Council because we know that these things are obviously cross-border. We're working on a larger Devon footprint as well, but we need to get our own house in order before we kind of take our learning to other agencies, to other councils. So the first sort of aspect of this work we did together was fact-finding, really, about all our different experiences in modern slavery and human trafficking that we've got locally. Now, obviously, as I mentioned before, we've only had one incident recently in our area. Sunrise maybe have had more experience than the Salvation Army. Again, through nationally, have had they run what's called a national referral mechanism, which I've got to talk about in a minute. So they've got a lot more experience of modern slavery. It's also interesting. There's also a police profile that outlines all the different potentially modern slavery adjacent incidents that happened across Devon and Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. Again, I can't go into that for reasons of confidentiality, but we are aware of all the incidents that happened in our neighbouring and slightly wider local authority areas. So I'll talk about the national referral mechanism now. The national referral mechanism is a mechanism which is designed to help those who are discovered to be victims of modern slavery and or human trafficking. It's a national protocol, and it's run by Salvation Army. They've been upon their service. Now, as a district council, if we come into contact with members of people who are victims of modern slavery, human trafficking, our duties is to refer to the national referral mechanism. And this is something that we did when we had this incident recently. And we're content that that's kind of, in some ways, statutorily, that's what we need to do. However, our experience we've hoped that we will refer a case to the NRM, National Referral Mechanism, and that case will be taken out of our hands. But our experience showed that, one, it's not an instant thing, and two, there are other things we might want to do locally in terms of housing, in terms of welfare of the individual, that may be immediate and may be something we need to respond to immediately before that NRM process takes place. And again, this is a bit about partnership. We all have different interests. The police will clearly have an interest. The council will have an interest. And other agencies will have an interest in the welfare of the people that are discovered or reported to us. So basically where we're at now is we are establishing our policy and our flow chart, if you like, about what we do when we come across a victim of modern slavery. So we're in a position where we know exactly what we are going to do to protect that person, to protect our officers, and to make sure that those people get the help they deserve and need. The referral to the national referral mechanism, that just means national. Yeah, that mechanism I just mentioned has to have consent from the person that we discover or to report to us. So if they don't consent to that help, then that opens up another range of possibilities for us, issues for us that we might need to address. Yes, so we had this meeting, and as I said, we've got a follow-up meeting Friday this week to continue our work with the protocol that we're putting together. And of course, I will continue to update the committee in terms of our process around that. On Friday this week, a select number of officers have also got additional training from an organisation, charitably called Unseen, which are a charity around which look after the vulnerabilities of people who potentially been trafficked or in modern slavery. So we've got that training on Friday, and then second part Tuesday next week, just to upskill us so we know exactly what to do, what we're talking about, and that will of course go to inform our protocol so we'll be in a comfortable position where we know what to do when we come across victims. As I said, it's my view that we're likely to come across more and more victims in the coming years and decades because of the instability in the world. But I think it's also fair to say that it's probably cases of modern slavery happening in our area, in a wider area, that we're not aware of, that don't come into our contact. So I think we need to be a bit more proactive in terms of discovering those. And I think by training more and more officers, both from the council, also the wider community safety partnership, to be able to spot the signs, to be able to know exactly what to do when they come across slavery, to keep those people safe. There's also a bit of work I think that needs to be done, that is being done with our Ministry of Services colleagues, so that they have a bit of a well, more of an awareness of what the signs might be, so to make sure that people are protected if they need to. And as I said, more training, more work with the protocol. Also, I'll continue to update the committee, and I don't think we're that far away from having something in place that we can immediately call on as and when this kind of offence again. Has anyone got any questions about that before?
Yes, I have a question.
Councillor Youssef.
Yes, so do you have any percentage of number of the victim of modern day slavery at the moment for this area, Governor Cornwall?
I have details of the incidents of human trafficking where people have been discovered.
Because it's very difficult to find out the victim,
Exactly.
and police is struggling for that. It's not now, it's for a long time, you know. And the problem is when England was in the out of EU referendum, you know, because that was more people victim, especially the East European people and from the Commonwealth countries, people are victim in here. So it's very difficult to find out because of when they are victim, because of they don't get much support and they don't get contact much, you know, and the people take advantage on it, you know.
Yeah.
So used to be a good number, but now it's been reduced quite a lot. But still, if you got any information like and what's the percentage in Dublin and Cornwall?
Yeah, so the difficulty, of course, is, as you said, a lot of this is hidden from us, from authorities, because one, obviously the people who are perpetrating the acts have wanted to begin. But two, the people who are victims of this are often scared, unsure, might have been, if they're from overseas, they will not have the information about how to report, how to make themselves safe. So I think it's incumbent on us to be a bit more inquiring, I suppose, to when we are approached by people who might be potential victims, to ask those questions to find out more about the position we're in. That's the difficult part. We don't necessarily have an idea about how many victims there might be. And that's really a big part of that. But what we want to make sure is, so that's one thing, but what we want to make sure is if someone does approach us, we are able to give them exactly the right treatment, that's the right word, exactly the right pathway that they need. And I think that in the past we might have relied on this national referral mechanism, but it's become clear that there is more work that we can do locally to protect us.
But what was the action take? Who was the victim? Who is the victim in it? And who's doing that? What's the action that is taken? That because I know used to the people work for £2 an hour, 250 hour in here, and they modern day slavery. There's a victim, you know. In the hotel, like I know the hotel name, some good brand of hotel in here, £250, £3 an hour been working in here.
Yeah.
Some of the restaurant, £3, £4 an hour. What is that entitled to? Properly get it paid, you know.
Yeah, sure. I know that the police do periodic visits to types of businesses that might have employed this kind of illegal behaviour, illegal actions. So they visit hotels, local car washes, that kind of thing. Those sorts of businesses that attract this kind of these kinds of offences.
Because they're still paying cash in hand, and they're taking advantage on it.
Yeah, yeah. And national figures show that often people aren't getting paid. You know, they're getting what's called debt bondage. So people who traffic them from wherever they've come from say that when you must work for us to pay off the debts, if you like, that we incurred getting you here. So I mean, there's lots and lots of different levels of criminality involved in this awful human scheme.
But the big fish have to be chased.
Absolutely.
The big fish, because they are getting benefited.
Yeah.
And they're taking advantage of it.
100%. Completely agree.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. Some of it's already been touched on by Councillor Youssef, because I have noticed we've all touched on with the car washes, the hairdressers. They seem to be taking over the town. Those two type of businesses, and a lot of it is when I've used the facilities or my son for the hair. A lot of it they want cash.
Yeah.
And also some of them they all seem to be sleeping. I know the one in Bear Street, the room above, where a lot of them seem to be staying in the same room.
Yeah.
And you know they can't. And some of them, when I've tried to have a conversation, because I try to read the things out myself, they can't even speak English.
Yeah,
So obviously you've got that control there. And that's the thing, how do they break it? Because obviously they can't ask for help if they can't speak English.
absolutely. I think that's a really interesting and really important point. I think wider than that, what they might have been told about the authorities in England, maybe, oh, don't never speak to the council, don't speak to the police, they'll do this, they'll do that. So that culture of fear exists as well. And this is what we have to try and break to try and get that information. I think that's the more difficult bit. What we need to do is, if we are approached, to be able to react instantly to get those people safe, and that's key.
And of course, with the police on the ground here, we are not exactly a very big force in the sense, like everywhere else, they're stretched.
Yeah.
So, you know, I suppose it'd be a bit different than a city where you've probably got these sort of workers and
Well,
that.
I think that again, without wanting to go into too much detail.
I fully understand that.
I was confident of everyone's reaction when the recent incident happened, to the police and ourselves. But it's just about making sure that because inevitably will happen again, whenever it is, we need to be able to instantly. We've done the fact finding, really. We've been through the initial stage where we've been unsure. So now, it's really important that we know exactly what to do, and kind of try to second guess any events, any sort of anything that happens, to make sure that the victims are safe.
Yeah, that's the key thing.
But I think it is heartening that the police clearly have protocols around this.
Of course they will, yeah.
Yes. Councillor Whitehead.
When I take a brief resume of this meeting and this item in particular to my parishes, and I have 5 very, very rural parishes, the first question they are going to ask is, when we see something, who is the first point of contact?
Yeah.
Who should I tell my parishes the first person to contact is?
Well, I would suggest it's the police.
The police.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if there's any law breaking,
And they're going to be information gathering, basically,
Yeah.
because the police are going to want lots of information to be able to follow these things up.
I mean, the first port of call clearly is the police.
It's the police, yeah.
What I would say is, if there's any concerns at all, and you get any concerns reported to you, please come to us.
Yeah, sure.
We're very happy to take reports. We don't want to get in the way of the police's work, but if it means getting that information to the right people, then of course.
Often my parishes think the first point of call is me. And I'm sure the other councillors have exactly the same issue. So we have to go off information gathering.
No, of course, and then if I imagine that if you're approached and you say, you're not going to turn around and say, that's not for me, that you need to go to the police. So it's about, as long as the information gets to where it needs to be, as many avenues as possible.
Yeah.
Or the police is the person that's, quite
Thank
Thank you. Councillor Can.
Yes, Tim, thank you for presenting that. Just a point, I think it follows on from Councillor Whitehead about who do we go to. I wouldn't feel that I was qualified enough to go information gathering. What I would do is make, as a local ward member, is make a note of it. And am I correct that then I would pass it to you? And then if you saw fit, you would deal with it. I don't know that I would go to the police. I think Tim, I would contact you with the information, all my concerns, and then it's gone from me. It's now with you, and you would deal with it.
I think each case might be different. I think that, of course, I'm not always available to offer advice and guidance.
No.
The difficulty around if you were to come to me and then me pass information on, of course, the information is diluted every stage it goes through. So ideally, the person who discovers the essentially illegality will be the one who reports it. But of course, the important thing is information gets to the right people. and I'm happy to.
I mean, you know, in most cases, and like I said, previous councillor said, it gets passed to them, so we're third party
Yeah,
anyway.
of course, yeah.
If it was me and I noticed something and I had concerns, then yes, I would go to the police. But I think if it's brought to us as a ward member and it's coming to a third hand, I think then that we pass it to our officers for them to deal with it, so that it's gone out of our hands and we're not then responsible for anything that didn't happen. So I think
Yeah.
if it's brought to us on a, you know, as a councillor, then I feel I would bring it to you, Tim.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
Yes. I think the other thing is that in my other world of safeguarding, you know, it's about keeping your eyes open for everyone, isn't it? So if something doesn't look, then it's probably not, you know, and it's that kind of nuance that we need to.
Very difficult to identify, I would think, because there are so many cases.
And it's hidden, and it's deliberately hidden.
Yes, exactly.
But
We've got to be detectives.
we've got all got to be detective, all got to be police.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Do you want to move on to the next?
Yeah, so
then?
again, much more briefly, the counter-terrorism local profile, which is a project that the police, sorry, I need to log into the computer and talk at the same time. And as a man, I can't remember it.
Great.
So the counter-terrorism local profile is a project that's made by local counter-terrorism police yearly. And it's an assessment of the terrorist threats and vulnerability to the threat that we're subject to locally in Devon, Cornwall, as a city. And I apologise again, but I can't really talk about this either. It's the easiest. But it has a series of recommendations, and just so you can be assured that we're dealing with the recommendations. Now, it's fair to say generally that training is always a good thing for both council staff and members if you choose to be trained. Some of you will have been trained in prevent counter-terrorism in the past, but there's also now there's a online course you can take and an online refresher course that are really, I think, quite good actually. So it might be worth looking at that. If you've got any questions or want to access any training or any more detailed questions about terrorism, counter-terrorism in our area, please feel free to contact me and talk to you. So again, it's about that, the same sort of message around modern slavery. It's about keeping your eyes open, isn't it? Always about questioning things that you see and thinking about, you know, if something, this is something I say all the time, but if something doesn't feel like, it's really the case. But again, I'm always available if you need any help. Last, very briefly, before we move on to Kate, you'll be aware that the last legislative meeting, Paul Butler and his colleague talked about night bus.
Yeah.
And it's running there at the moment. So I think it's Fridays, Saturdays as well, including Barnstable, Milford. So that's me. Kate Warren is going to talk about antisocial behaviour. Oh,
Sorry, councillor Norman, yes.
Just a question for Tim, really. You mentioned training for members, must be available. That trig is putting together the training plan for next year for members. And we're discussing it on Thursday, so whether let know what is available to us. Thank you.
Also, Tim, whilst we were talking about the bus services at the last meeting, when Paul Butler was reporting back, there was something about he was going to check about the cuts to the bus services. He was going to let us know whether there were any changes or any, you know, deficit in the system that we could actually make representation to Stagecoach. So if you could please ask him to let us know if there's anything we can do to support that. Okay, thank you.
So just a quick update for me, really, just what's been happening in the last 3 months. So we have had an issue, quite a significant issue with street drinking and litter over the summer, and still continues to be an issue. So unfortunately, street marshals are only funded to be there 2 days a week, which makes it difficult. And the local policing team are really stretched out now. They only have 2 neighbourhood officers. So it has made it quite difficult. But Hannah and I have been working quite hard to escalate individuals issued community protection warning letters, community protection notices, and recently we've gone to court and obtained 3 criminal behaviour orders on individuals that are the main kind of offenders in Ilfracombe. So criminal behaviour orders can be quite effective because breach of the notice or breach of the order is a criminal offence and an arrestable offence. So it kind of puts a bit more pressure on the police to enforce on those orders. And the conditions are obviously not to be drinking in the public space protection area. The ones we've got at the moment are not to be drinking anywhere. So it kind of pushes back a bit of pressure onto the police is what we're trying to do, so that you know the penalty for a breach of a criminal behaviour order is much more significant than it is for a breach of a community protection warning notice. People have received custodial sentences previously. It's not the answer to, my view is it's not the answer to everything, because the individuals that we've taken to court are alcoholics and do have significant drinking history, and I've had to try and engage them all together in drug and alcohol services. But the problem we have at the moment is that a lot of people don't want to engage in drug and alcohol services, so kind of caught between a rock and a hard place really. But my duty is to try and reduce the problems in the community. So we are taking action. We're in court next week, actually, Hannah, aren't we, with another individual that's causing issues in Ilfracombe. And the public spaces protection order area in the summer, we extended it to the beach areas because the drinkers realised then that that was not in the area, and then go and sit on beaches on Wilder's Mouth Beach and Cane Beach and on the harbour. So that has improved the issues on the beach because the street marshals and the police can now remove alcohol from on there.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much. As obviously I represent Ilfracombe, as Councillor Quinn here. Obviously, I'm pleased to hear that this actually is taking place. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I would imagine I know all of your guys and ladies. I work in Lidl, so again, as I say, obviously I see quite a bit of this. Now, you mentioned the street marshals.
Yeah.
I know that they're only in Ilfracombe for 2 days a week, and I'm pleased to see that you are also attending with them. That was something I brought up at the crime prevention in college that day. But I'm just wondering, I appreciate funds are limited, but I did understand that there was talk of trying to increase their presence in Ilfracombe. Do we know if we're anywhere near that, or if it's still under discussion?
I think it's still under discussion. I think Ken obviously is very supportive of the street marshal scheme.
Yeah.
And it might be that we have to, have a further meeting with Ken and Hannah Harrington about, the resourcing of the marshal scheme. Because in Barnsley we have 7 days a week. And that's really been really effective in Barnsley, and has reduced a lot of the issues in town, and they're really good. And the marshals in Ilfracombe are really good, but that sits with Ken and the budget. So I would have to go back and speak further with Ken and Nina about that. And it is frustration because you, in my view, we need resources there every day. I go out with the police, I go out on my own with staff. And it is an ongoing issue in Ilfracombe. And part of the problem in Ilfracombe, which is very different to Barnstable, is that the poor group of individuals that we're dealing with are in residential premises. They're not homeless, so they're in residential premises where they can't drink. So they're alcoholics, so they come out to drink, and they do that all day, every day. And we have been doing some work with their accommodation providers where they are to, call them to get them to pick them up. When they're intoxicated, the police take them back there. So we've had further meetings with management about those issues. So it's very different to the situation we have in Barnstable, because it is a core group. So I do support that there is a need for the marshals, but equally, but in Ilfracombe, it's been quite challenging because some of the individuals can be very aggressive, and there is an issue of safety there for the street marshals, and there has been for myself in Ilfracombe. So in the last couple of months, we've had to push back to the police a lot more because some of the individuals that we're dealing with are quite very confrontational and not particularly safe to deal with because of the rural locations of where they drink. There has been some further work done on additional cameras in Ilfracombe. I know that Helen's been working on getting 2 more cameras put up so the CCTV coverage is better. And I know that the police are looking at how we can sort out because in Barnsley they have a shop radio that they can link in with CCTV. At Ilfracombe they're very isolated, so the police are trying to support the marshals a lot more in relation to the sort of personal safety side of things there. It's much more difficult, but I can take it as an action to go back to Fiona and Nina and speak.
Yeah, makes you wonder what access to sort of support services there is in Ilfracombe. I know Barnsley pretty well, got the drug and alcohol
Yeah, they
services.
do Bells Place together
yeah.
twice a week.
Okay.
But it's their willingness to engage with those services.
It's always the way, isn't it?
That
Yeah,
you can't force someone, unfortunately.
Councillor Whitehead.
This might be a silly question, and it's probably more for the town council who's here. Would it perhaps be possible to ask the residents of Ilfracombe if they would like to donate the fund to support a street marshal?
Potentially they're very expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah,
just an idea. I mean, you're talking about 2 days a week. If the residents in Ilfracombe are awfully concerned about the issue, and I'm sure they are, I mean, perhaps some fundraising could be done on potentially. Just an idea. I would certainly be happy to donate to some sort of fund to help finance another street marshal.
The difficulty with Ilfracombe. Yeah, I mean, the difficulty with Ilfracombe, we get very, very few complaints from the public, literally hardly any, and that evidence base isn't there.
Yeah.
Because residents don't complain, businesses don't really complain, we don't get a high level of complaints which go directly to the police, so that there's not an evidence.
Because it could be businesses that might be willing to donate, but you're saying not.
Councillor Quinn.
I just want to say that I think at the moment with the weather, it's not as bad as it has been recently. Despite the bad weather, because I'm with no criminal and all quite a lot. But I know it's going to become a bigger issue in the new year and the weather's better. I know a lot of people don't complain because quite a lot of the trouble is between themselves. Because there's quite a lot of, sometimes it's half a dozen, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them.
It's quite intimidating.
And they are intimidating.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm not as intimidated. I walk past them quite a lot, but they're all quiet and hide stuff. No face and everyone all right? Yeah, fine, great. And dog passing that and turn around with the back. But it is like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's an issue that we don't have marshals more, or will
In the
do
spring.
in the
so,
near future.
And that's perhaps something that I'll
So
go back to Ken.
yeah,
because
looking at the
that's-
sources of funding is going to be key here, isn't it? You know, it's obviously shown its value in Barnstable, and clearly there are different issues, similar but different. But, you know, more residents will help support that, I'm sure.
And they are limited on, and this is the difficulty, as I am from the council, that if someone, and we've had this issue, particularly with people that don't even have the criminal behaviours orders granted, if they're refusing, they're refusing. So we can ask them for their alcohol. If they say, no, you're not having it, we haven't really got anywhere to go other than court. And it's only the police that can really physically remove them and or arrest them for that behaviour. So whilst the marshals are very helpful and do have some success on, you know, reducing the issues, and as do, you know, I go out and do patrols, we don't have the same powers as the police. And, you know, we have had in Ilfracombe them point blank and refusing to hand it over and openly drinking. So it is a wider issue. And I've had meetings with the inspector in Ilfracombe, and they're aware they've actually got an operation ongoing at the moment where they're having additional resources from out of Devon come up from Exeter to and the extra funding and overtime to try and
Okay.
deal with the issue.
So it sounds like they're on it a bit now. There's
Yeah, they
something-
are on it,
I
yeah.
think, so I don't know what the response times might be like, you know, I'm not sure how well resourced they are.
They've had extra resources coming up.
Yeah, so
Many
that's
days
good to know,
dealing
yeah,
with the enforcement side of it, so.
yeah. Councillor Whitehead.
Just say with your personal protection, do you have any personal protection when you go into these
Body
situations?
cam,
Oh, that was.
yeah, the
my
marshals do, but
Yes.
equally that doesn't, you know, doesn't the police, it doesn't if you've got a drunk.
And are you on your own?
No, I don't go my own.
Always go with somebody.
Yeah,
The thing is that they've got a problem
yes,
and
you're taking her out.
yes, they've got a problem. There's nowhere to go to stop them escalating into a major problem with having a drink. You know, the beach has been taken away from them, this, that, and the other. And it's an issue.
It is an
And
issue.
it's a balancing of where can I go then?
Yeah, no, they do ask
You
that
know, well,
frequently.
out of town.
Yeah.
You're only pushing a problem somewhere else. And
It is a difficult,
Thank you,
but
but
it's
it's not reporting to us on that.
Yeah.
Now we know what we're up against, you
Can I
know.
just?
Yeah, councillor Cam.
Sorry, it's me again. Thank you, Kate. Just wanted to mention in the Barnstable High Street.
Yeah.
And obviously there's an order on a couple of sort of frequent drinkers. What they're doing, because it's only an order for the High Street, is
Yeah.
they're putting themselves just off of the High Street,
yeah,
top of Holland Walk,
Yeah.
you know, and also outside the Guildhall, and they're leaving all their bedding there.
yeah.
So during the day, for anybody that's walking past, maybe a wheelchair, maybe prams, pushchairs, or people, you know, don't want to step into the road, all they've got on the corner of like I say, Butcher's Row and the other
Yeah.
areas is bedding. In fact, on one occasion, I did ring the ward member who's just left the room and said that there was bedding strewn across the wall at the top of Holland Walk. So they
Yeah.
are there, but they are really pushing the boundaries because they've only got the order for the High Street.
Yeah,
And they can be aggressive. I'm in the town quite often because I work with a youth group and I'm in there and I see them. And they can be aggressive to my young people and also to shoppers. So they
Yeah.
may not be stuck there with alcohol or collecting, although sometimes they are. They can still come across as aggressive when they get up and they move around the high street. But I have to say, the street marshals in Barnstable have been an incredible
Yeah.
asset, and I've got their direct number, and if there's any hassle, I will just ring them. But they are just creeping out, they are pushing it,
Yeah.
and I didn't know, and you know,
Yeah.
and I think one of the main issues is cluttering the pathway with their bedding, their blankets, and you know, string it when it's wet, stringing it up on the wall. Well, you know, but there's nothing really that can be
Yeah,
done if
but
the order's only the High Street.
So we are looking to extend that. The
Right,
difficulty we've got at the moment with bedding, because in the summer, if it was left for more than 15 minutes, the marshal would take it, and they've taken a lot of bedding from those individuals. But at
Right,
the moment,
yeah,
when it's so cold,
yeah,
it's very difficult to take their bedding because then they haven't got access to any other.
but are they?
Yeah, they are. Those
They are.
individuals are homeless. So that is a bit of a difficult, we're in a difficult place at the moment when the weather's so cold. We can't just take that bedding.
Yeah.
But we are looking, their notices are expiring soon, and so they've already reminded me that their notices are expiring, so they can go back on High Street. I said no. So the police are looking at going to be issuing new warning letters, notices to restrict them from all the other areas that we've just discussed, Gammon Walk, Holland Walk, Butcher's Road,
Yeah.
between a certain period of time. So, often shop opening hours, so they can't be sat in any of those areas and have any bedding down. So that's what we're going to be looking at doing in a week's time when their current notice things out. Because we can't have two running alongside each other, so we're going to be issuing new ones to prevent them from moving Holland Walk. And I have done quite a bit of work with one of the individuals to try and get more engagement with him and services, because these individuals are quite complex. They're not necessarily choosing to their circumstances. But engagement services is, so I've been trying to do quite a lot to try and get their benefits sorted because they aren't receiving any benefits of any money. So I've tried to help them with that. So then they've got no reason to beg. You see what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's
no,
a
I know that there's
it's
agencies
really
out there
difficult.
working,
It's really difficult.
you know, working closely with them, but
Yeah.
just like, you know, the bedding, and as I said, I
Yeah.
got hold of, Fenster, we said about a bedding that was strewn across the wall, didn't I, you know, and he followed that
Yeah.
up, so,
But we are taking enforcement action against one of those individuals that he is going to court next week actually for being on High Street. So we have breached them for being on the High Street, and it made a difference on the High Street. But obviously they've gone other areas where, and I'm in the process of getting statements from the businesses in the areas that they currently sit to move to the next escalation for those areas.
Thank you. Councillor Norman.
You may want to speak to Tesco's in the evenings.
Yeah.
Because once the High Street's closed, I gather, or this one I should gather around.
Yeah. We get many, the problem we have is quite a lot of the businesses also, they may complain about these individuals, but they also help these individuals.
Yeah.
So they often get them coffees. I've seen many of these businesses taking coffees out, taking bedding out, bringing stuff to people. So whilst they, you know, it's difficult because they feel sorry for these individuals, and it's, you know, it's a difficult situation to be in and very cold at the moment. And we're never going to, it'd be unfair to completely remove them from the town. So we just need to try and deal with the actual behaviour of littering and the bedding and the begging, and then sitting down. So that is going to be dealt with through new processes this month by the police. It's going to be led on by the police as opposed to the council, because I feel the police need to lead on it in relation to the enforcement.
No, I've not seen any bad behaviour. That they are, I mean, some might be, well, I walk around them, but.
Yeah, I think one man in particular can, at least not in a good place, can be quite, and there was some posts on Facebook recently about some behaviours of shouting and members of the public, so that one individual can be quite difficult, so. But in relation, to go back to Ilfracombe, I have done some visits with Paul Butler to the off-licensed premises, because what we're realising is they're still getting the alcohol, they're still being sold the alcohol, and so we have been in and spoken to a lot of the off-licensed premises. Paul Butler's written some kind of quite formally worded letters to the licensed premises about selling alcohol to intoxicated people. They're all saying they're all banned, but it's very difficult with proxy sales if they're asking other people to buy alcohol. So we are on it with that. Barnstaple has been much better in the last few weeks. We had an issue at the bus station. They were having the cafe there were having ongoing issues with lots of people misusing the toilets there, causing antisocial behaviour there, because it is a cafe, but the public have access to those toilets. So it was becoming a bit of an antisocial behaviour hotspot. We're looking at getting another camera up there and they're trying to support them with lighting, so it's lit up all night. So then there aren't people sitting outside and causing issues outside the bus station, because it is a great new facility to have at the bus station, of toilets and things there. But obviously with public having access, that creates sometimes its own issues.
Thank you. Councillor Youssef.
Yeah, actually, one more question. It's a very interesting one. What about the guy in outside the North Devon Hospital? He's on his luxurious tent. He's in there. His bed, his bottle, and he abusive word. He abusing people when passing, because he wanted, the story I heard, he wanted to stay in the hospital because he thinks the hospital is a hotel for him, you know. And the hospital people, this is not a hotel. This is not a homeless people's place, you know. You have to, so what he doing, he's outside in the prime location and shouting and abusive, but police not taking any action. That's really strange. Though.
I think, I mean, I can't obviously go into particular details about that individual, but we're all aware of him. He's not got a local connection to North Devon, so that in itself has its own issues in relation to any housing support that he would be offered. But I know that there's a complex, there's been some complex multi-agency meetings from out of the area that are trying to get some additional resources or fund some additional resources to get him support in the local area. Engage.
But it's been months and months and months he's in there. His
Yeah.
should not be taking that long to relocate him somewhere. Because first thing you have to understand, because this is it's right outside the hospital, and every day the people are visiting there. People have so many own issues, their problems, mental health problem, other issues. And this disturbance is really affect badly people, Even I tried to talk to him a few times, and he just F-word using and all this, and I thought it's no point to talk to him,
What I would say is people need to report it in because we get a lot of reports of people obviously concerned about his welfare, concerned about the situation, but the police aren't having that many reports about him causing antisocial behaviour. So I would say if your residents are complaining about his antisocial behaviour, to bring it into the police and get it logged. So I'm aware of the ongoing issues with trying to support him to relocate him, but it's not that simple. He wouldn't get offered anything by North Devon Council because he doesn't have a local connection. So the out of area services are involved in trying to persuade him to go back to his local area. There are some wider discussions regarding the need for the police as to whether we look at issuing warnings to prevent him from being there, but he will pop up somewhere else in Barnstaple. We just need to deal with the bigger issues around so.
Okay, thank you very much, Kate. That's lovely.
Yeah, that's quickly. I think the positive note is officers seems and councillors are aware of the individuals and support is being given where appropriate.
Yeah.
Rather than being sporadic and not knowing about things. It's real positive, I think, for the council.
Yeah, and it's for us to know to have that feedback that things are, happening. So thank you for that. Okay. Right, okay, have you finished now? Your bit? Well, thank you very much for your updates today. Brilliant. Thank you. Don't forget your chocolate.
Oh, no.
Right. Thank you, bye. Okay, moving on then to item 8, lack of provision of accessible Hackney carriage and private hire vehicles in Barnstaple. Over to Katie Nichols.
I just wondered, because colleagues from Devon County Council, James Bedford and Samantha Ball have attended for item 9. I just wondered if we could potentially swap those over. Just
members, are we happy to move those items? Yeah, okay, thank you.
I won't ask any more questions.
So then let's get the agenda back. We'll come back to that. So we'll move on to item 9, the Hackney Carriage rank review. Again, over to Katie.
Thank you very much. That's really much appreciated. And thanks for your patience, Samantha and James. This item, members will recall from the previous meeting some time ago now, I must admit, because of the Verso transition project, we've been kind of focusing quite a lot of attention on that item, and therefore that this is a little bit delayed compared to what I would normally expected. However, nonetheless, we have done a consultation with the taxi trade on an informal basis, and we've done that for a number of weeks. The meeting that we came to was the 14th of May. Consultation with the trade has then been undertaken, and you'll see it in the report. There's a number of responses, not a large number, I must admit, which isn't unusual. I think sometimes we're always surprised to have few consultation responses do come back. We've had those 4. They are found within the report at Appendix A. And in terms of those responses, I've summarised those in terms of 4.7. They fall into the following categories, really. So full support for the taxi rank locations being amended is proposed, particularly in Ilfracombe. Proposals to amend the timings of Barton Road, Woolacombe. There's a proposal there to change that from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. To 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And they're saying that that would be in line with reported delivery times at that particular location. There's some concern expressed over the rank on the Esplanade, Woolacombe, due to its proximity to the junction and the makeup of the curb being alleged to be an uneven raised surface. I have gone out actually and taken some photos of that so we can have a little look. and then proposal to amend the rank from that position on the Esplanade Wilkin to the road adjacent to the Red Barn, Barton Road, opposite the bus stop, due to that being a greater width road, and then concern over the lack of enforcement of the ranks being in part private cars being parked on them, which is obviously largely outside the scope of the review, but worthy for members to note. So obviously we've got colleagues here from council that will perhaps provide a little bit more information on what they believe is pertinent, because in terms of any process under the Local Government Surveillance Provisions Act, if we're going to then go out to advert, first and foremost, we need permission of the landowner, which obviously in this case is highway, so we need to work very closely in partnership with our county council colleagues, and thank you very much for attending today, Sam and James. So I've got some photos, and perhaps it would be useful to show those initially. And what I will do is I will hopefully try and share my screen so we can have a little look at those.
So it might be useful, Chair, whilst Katie's obviously getting the pictures up, have a conversation about the enforcement. Obviously, one of the reasons behind this scheme was for us to sort of formalise the taxi ranks, and we talked last time about making them no stopping, which makes the enforcement that much simpler, much clearer. So I think in terms of the enforcement, obviously, if there's ongoing issues, once we've done these changes, they can certainly be fed through to our civil enforcement service to highlight the concerns and the timings. They can look at their controls and the timings of that as appropriate. But obviously the restriction on the motor part would be no stopping, so it's very clear, a little bit like bus stops, that there should be nothing stopping within the taxi rank at all. Therefore make the enforcement a much more visible and much quicker process rather than having to observe is a vehicle loading or anything else. If there's a vehicle there, it's not a taxi, then it can be issued a penalty charge notice. So the enforcement point, hopefully this process and this review should hopefully resolve that and make that a bit simpler as well.
Thank you. Okay, right. Hopefully they're not the biggest. Okay. So you can see the junction here onto the Esplanade, turning left into the road. On the left-hand side, you'll see in yellow the taxi bay mark there.
Is there a minute, Kate? No.
I've got some more photos, but
Right,
I've
okay.
got down. It's probably one of the most
Yeah.
picturesque.
Yeah.
This is looking at, so you can see the position in terms of beach. Looking back on the junctions a bit closer. So we had those comments about the uneven grey surface, and that is the case. It is quite uneven. And going into the next item, we'll talk about in terms of access to taxis from a disabled perspective. Then obviously that would be something that would perhaps be in line with some of the comments we'll be making in due course in terms of the makeup of that road. Obviously there is an area here that is firm and it doesn't pose a risk, but it depends on where vehicles are. If I scroll down, got another photograph there coming back the other way in terms of that rank. So that's the current position, and then I've also
just on that point, the rank faces obviously to the left, where predominantly a lot of the taxi work involves going back up the hill to the holiday camp and that. So it means I'm either going down to the bottom and doing that, obviously turning around, or we're probably taking a stupid accident and you turning immediately there.
Yeah.
Is it worth me at this point, because I have spoken to Councillor Malcolm Wilkinson about this particular rank. Obviously, he's the ward member for Woolacombe, and his comment, he actually took the item to the parish council and spoke to members there. And he basically said there was a general agreement that the site outside the Red Barn was sensible. This is the alternative. It's where the taxis park anyway, apparently.
Yeah.
Highways may have an issue, however. It was also requested that if the new rank is agreed, then the current Esplanade rank could become disabled parking only. But again, it would need some upgrades, presumably for people getting in and out of private cars as well. But that's the ward member's view.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really useful. Thank
Yeah,
you for
yeah.
to him to get that. It's nothing like having that sort of
Yeah.
local take. So this is Barton Road. As you'll see, this sort of building here on the left-hand side with the scaffolding, that is the Red Barn, the licensed premises, which is obviously a busy spot in the summer, and should note the bus stop opposite there. I've got another couple of photos. Just looking back down the road towards the junction, Red Barn being on the right-hand side, and the bus stop on the left. You'll see the width of the carriageway there, and then a little bit closer to the Red Barn. One more coming back up the other way there. Mr. Bench has kindly provided some additional photographs in terms of what potentially could be a rank, and perhaps that leads on to seek comment from county in terms of the proposal from the trade to move that rank, and whether there would be some support before I look at that.
Yeah, well, if you want to bring the plan up,
Yeah.
obviously, I've mocked together a plan of it. I had a chance to go and have a look at it yesterday, actually. And I think there is potential scope to look at that. Obviously, it's subject to obviously statutory consultation. Obviously, perhaps further discussion with the fire service, given the fire station is down the end of the road. But I do consider there is sufficient width there from the drop curb behind the Red Barn, about 20 metres. That'd be a rank for about 4 vehicles to wait there. We'd have to adjust the centre line to move them over at the same time, but essentially, I think there certainly would be capacity there to facilitate that. I think, given the comments about the esplanade and the turning and the accessibility, I think absolutely, yeah. In hindsight, looking at that rank, it isn't really fit for purpose anymore. So absolutely suggesting that one. The one thing I did suggest back to comments Katie is obviously there's been discussion about the other rank and Barton Road, which is just off to the right of the map. So there is a question about, is that rank actually needed, and can we resolve that at the same time and actually just say that we just have a single rank in Wellcome and it's all in one location consistently then, and that way then everybody then knows if you want a taxi, this is the place to go. Because I don't know whether the other required any use was the only comment and thought that I had in that basis. In terms of what the alternative use for the current ranks would be, again, that'd be further discussion that we'd have with our county council highways member, who may liaise with the district member to whatever and see what it would be. But potentially, the proposal would be, I would suggest we perhaps look at removing both ranks and consolidating it just to that 4 rank location by the Red Barn.
Would a 4 taxi rank be enough?
Well, that's the question. I don't know.
Would that need to be reconsulted?
It would certainly be further consultation on before we sort of make any final decisions on those proposals. Absolutely.
Okay.
Just for members' information, it was previously a rank some time ago, which the fire authority made a representation with regard to, and it was rescinded. But to be honest, taxis are normally, as a rule, with the driver in the vehicle. James has said he's measured the width there, and I think in the event of emergency, those vehicles normally aren't unattended and will be able to move immediately. And to be honest, is that taxi park there now by the Red Barn because it's the late night venue anyway, and it's of the main pickup. Now on that one there.
Just for members' information, this is the other rank, just to put things into perspective. So higher up Barton Road, on the right-hand side from the photos, up from the Red Barn, from that junction across that crossroad, is a rank at the moment, which is existing 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. Now that's something that the trade have suggested that there would be an amendment in terms of the timings, because they believe that would be akin to the delivery times in that location to extend the use of that rank, and that hopefully would help members in terms of making a decision within the proximity of the two ranks there. This is the Esplanade rank. You'll see as an aerial view there, so it is fairly close to that junction, and obviously as we've seen, the makeup in this location with the verge is fairly poor there. So I think there are points raised by members of the trade that are accurate in terms of the unevenness of the surface and in terms of our obligations to transporting taxi passengers rather with disabilities, then I do feel that we have an obligation to rectify that situation either by way of amendment to curb or relocation in line with the comments from James and support of county. I think it would be prudent for us to undertake a level of informal consultation perhaps with the trade before then going out, and I think in terms of the proposal it would be to go out by way of a newsletter now to trade just for a short period of time to check if there are any observations before then go into strategy and resources to approve a full consultation in terms of the advert being placed in the newspaper under the Local Government Miscellaneous Provision 76, I think it's section 63. The council are obligated to go through a process of advertisement. I had a look at that because some other local authorities have queried whether, in addition to the traffic regulation or the process from a county perspective, there's an additional need to go out for advertisement and to approve these ranks. There is a really good text from James Button, particularly on this rank question and the adoption of a rank formally under Local Government Miscellaneous. And unless the rank is adopted under that legislation, we go out for advertisement and undertake that procedure, which is very prescriptive in terms of the process, that rank wouldn't be deemed a hackney carriage rank in terms of that legislation. So what that would mean is that if the council found that there was an ongoing issue to the future with private hire vehicles, for example, private hire illegally, and the local authority, we wouldn't be able to take action by way of prosecution for that type of offence. So I do feel it's prudent for the council to continue on in its process of adopting ranks formally under the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions. We don't actively enforce bylaws here in terms of the cab rank principle, the first on and off rule, because we have a variety of vehicles licensed with the council in terms of their size. We have multi-seater vehicles. We don't have a standardised fleet, so the customer does sometimes have a choice. If we've got a large family, they might choose a different vehicle by way of example. So that's not particularly relevant here as it would be perhaps in some other areas, but I do feel that there is ongoing justification for this process of advertisement, because obviously with that comes a budgetary burden of the advert placed in the newspaper, which would be several £100 to do that. But I feel that that would be prudent for those ranks to be ranks in terms of the statutory framework. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm not sure if there are any other comments. The one thing I would add is that there was an email from Councillor Maskell, whilst I remember, in terms of the Bronze rank.
Yeah.
And it's just we just need to check before we go out for additional consultation. So she said, just wanted to point out that the taxi rank review Braunton Exeter Road, the diagram is showing the existing bus stop clearway, dark blue dots, and existing limited waiting, light blue dots. She believes it was the wrong way round, and the light blue should be shown at the bottom, the dark blue at the top. So if we just check that, get the vote out. That one
No changes.
Which one's
Mid.
Let's have a look.
Yeah. Should be 5 times over. Yeah. Because this is why
So here we go. Exeter Road, Braunton. So the light blue dots and the dark blue dots, does that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just need to swap those around.
Yeah, we'll just update them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So we will update that in terms of obviously the ongoing consultation on this, and with member approval, if we could go out to the trade informally in terms of the proposal, if that's something that members want to do, and then we'll take it onwards if there are no comments. If there are comments, I think it's prudent then to come back and discuss those again.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that because we're doing what the trade have asked for expressly,
Being responsive.
if we do that,
Yeah.
then they'll be very pleased with that approach.
Yeah.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't get any further comment on that.
I think Councillor Hunt and Councillor Can have an issue with mid Mountfort.
Mountfort Street, because we actually did say at the last time evenings only, and you've got it here, no change proposed. We did say evening only because it causes a bit of a. It's not needed during the day.
Okay, so which, is this the right map we've got for that, Councillor Hunt?
I'm just.
We've got it up on screen.
No, it's the mid one. I think
It
it's the
says
next.
Mountfort Street.
Is it that one? Hang on.
No.
On the stream.
Yeah, that's the mid. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
it says Mountfort Street
Yeah.
mid
Yeah,
on
that's
that
the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I've got it, yeah.
Yeah, just on the history of that, we originally created that as a sort of a feeder rank when the ranks were so busy at the bottom of Lower Battle Street, so vehicles could then see when it was clear down the bottom, when really before COVID, when those ranks were so heavily used.
Yeah, you'll find now it's the Strand, they're just all along the Strand now.
Yeah, there used to be.
The ones in Cross Street aren't used at all.
No.
Considerable, this used to be a considerable feeder rank to the lower Mountfort Street rank. Obviously, times have potentially changed, and actually when you go into the town, there are less vehicles on the rank by far.
Yeah.
We had problems of them on the pavement, mounting the pavement on the corner where the Royal Fortescue is, and we've had police enforcing obstruction and various issues there, didn't we? On that?
We did, yeah, but it's really changed since
Yeah.
COVID.
But I still don't understand why Cross Street even is still in there, because it's never used. You never see it, it's not used.
Proposed to.
That was supposed to be taken away,
Supposed to be
removed. Yeah.
removed.
Keep going like this,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And then rank the.
The new rank, no
on,
waiting time, yeah.
on
Castle.
By
Castle.
Queen Anne, didn't it?
By
I know you
Queen Anne,
mean.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in essence,
Yeah.
that rank could then be seen from the
Yes,
side
I
of
know
the
what you mean,
premises,
yeah.
and it would make much better sense.
Actually, on the Cross Street one, when the taxi rank is taken away, what will that bit of road then become? Is that accessible park? Is that parking
No.
or?
The proposal.
Reinstate no waiting at any time. Why can't people park there after 6? Like they can in the rest of Cross Street?
Potentially, yeah, we could amend the proposals to change that from double yellow lines, back
Double yellow.
to a single line. Obviously the big Cross Street itself is closed during the daytime.
Yeah.
Anyway,
After 6, people park there for the evening,
right, yeah.
things, don't
Potentially,
they?
yeah, we could look at allowing another restriction
Single,
there.
yeah.
So either a single line or some other restriction. We can have a conversation with the local county council to see
Yeah.
what their thoughts.
Sorry, I
would
didn't
be.
notice that last time you came, but
So, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, what was the outcome on what we just said about Bakeford Street? Was just a little bit.
And the proposal that at this time is existing no waiting at any times except taxis, based on that being a feeder location. And then, so you've got the rank at Lower Mountfort Street there being the main utilised rank. And in the consultation that went out, that this rank remains as existing no waiting at any time except taxis, with, that's the mid one. Yeah, that's the location.
So are we proposing then that we remove that and say evening only? Because then during the day, if a taxi wants to wait there, it can, because it's a regular car anyway.
Well, I think there is access limited to Mountfort Street anyway. There's a prohibition of motor vehicles covering that length of road, so there is limited access along the road. So I don't think the public, off the top of my head, have general access. So I don't know what benefit there would be in allowing other vehicles, apart from loading, which they can do within the loading. Right? Relax both
Is
of
this
them
not the
to
bit
allow-
opposite the cinema?
Is that the bit?
You can drive down there during the day.
There's a prohibition of motor vehicles sign at the top of the road at Junction Queen.
There's access only on the street.
But everyone does.
Yes.
Everyone does.
Well, no one sees that.
Because if you've got a small sign,
Do you know what?
if you're in a car, you're not going to stop your car to look around for a sign. Some of these signs are so obscured where they're placed, it's ridiculous.
I think they're illuminated at the junction, but yeah.
There's quite a reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many, sorry, I should go through.
No,
the
you
chat.
can.
How many loading bays are there on that full? I asked because on Sunday, Blue Badge holder was asked to move out of a disabled bay to allow a van to unload in one of the shops there. After which they were told, no, this is a disabled bay. And they went off on one, I can't get access to the shop. How many? There does seem to be few disabled slots there compared to loading. And obviously that was challenged because it was me and nobody's going to say anything. But I'm wondering if anybody else would have stuck their ground and said, I'm not moving for a delivery because that's a disabled bay, Blue Badge holder, and we can park there. So they are struggling, I think, in some of those shops to get the delivery in. So, but I suppose my question is, how many unloading bays, how many disabled ones from that stretch in Boatport Street?
I must get best top end. I don't know. I've not got internet access here, so I can't look it up. But
No, okay,
obviously,
do we know,
access, I
Phil?
can-
No, what I would say sometimes is some of those businesses themselves tend to leave their vehicles parked along there.
Well, this van driver was quite aggressive. You
Yeah.
move out, I need to unload.
Yeah.
No, disabled, Blue Badge, not going anywhere, shut the door and out we went. You know, but how many other people are being
Yeah.
approached?
Yeah.
Like I
When-
say, I'm quite verbal, as you
Yeah.
can see, and
Well,
I
we-
just, you know,
When there were,
No, never.
when our rank was created along there, we did have a bit of an issue with supposedly loading vehicles, parking up, leaving their boot open and just leaving them there for like
yeah.
quite a
yeah.
period of time.
I couldn't believe that I was asked to, you know, my husband was asked to
Yeah.
move out into a disabled bay. No way. But I'm just wondering whether there is enough and whether this one, so going back to the mid Boatport Street, whether that would clear if it was during working hours to allow another loading bay and only night times that I don't know. Is that what we're saying? Yes, yeah.
In terms of the parking on the screen, I've sort of just brought up our online mapping tool.
Yeah.
Where we can see all the restrictions. It's a bit faint, but obviously coming from the north from Queen Street Junction, the first orange bay on the right-hand side, they're outside sort of 43, that's a loading bay.
Yeah,
The long length of a red line, that is disabled parking.
which I think was 2 in there, yeah.
Oh, I would say there's probably about 3 spaces, drop-off spaces there.
Yeah, okay.
And then obviously the other side of the build outside, sort of 49 down, that orange bay is another loading bay. And then obviously the pinky line on the right side further down is the taxi rank. So there is quite a long length of loading available there. It just means they may not be able to load directly right outside the front of their premises.
That was,
I
I
think
think
that
that
was
was
the
the
case.
Yeah.
Loading facilities along that lane.
They did have a.
It was get your foot, you know, your fork truck out and do it from up there.
Didn't you say they could unload on the taxi rank as well?
So the taxi rank, obviously, because it's a no waiting taxi rank, then yes, loading would be permitted.
So they can load on that as well.
We got that, they can load as well,
Yes.
Yeah.
on the mid one, that's
mid
mid
one.
Boatport Street.
Yes, that's supposed mid one.
Yeah, so loading plus tax.
Yeah, so it has got its use.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You'll note that the lower Balfour Street, that one was a proposed no stopping.
Well, we discussed it back in May, yeah. So that is now
Sorry,
agreed to no waiting.
things again.
Yeah. Okay, is that all the amendments that we think we need?
Yeah,
Okay. So we'll be at the point where I want to do the recommendations then, I guess. So one was to consider the responses received from the taxi trade in response to the consultation on the proposed taxi rank amendments that we've just seen. 2.1.2, determine whether to make any suggested amendments. So those have been noted. And then to determine whether to make any onward recommendation to strategy and resources with regard further advertising of the proposals for amendment of the Hackney carriage ranks in line with section 63 of the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act, as you mentioned. Are there any further amendments we need on those recommendations, Katie?
That includes the overnight Woolwich rank.
Yes, I think the main query in terms of consideration of the responses, obviously, we've had evidence today from Highways that they would support consultation in respect of a modification to the ranks in Woolacombe. Members need to consider today options. Firstly, whether to remove both the ranks, namely Barton Road rank and the Esplanade rank, and consolidate that with one rank at the location outside of the Red Barn, Barton Road. Second option is to keep the additional 2 ranks, the Barton Road existing and the Esplanade, and create a brand new additional rank outside the Red Barn, so 3 ranks, or there could be 2 ranks. So it's just that I think those options.
Yeah, with respect, I don't think we can decide that. I think that needs to be part of the consultation. That ask the trade themselves which they would prefer. Because again, I don't know how many taxis are using the Woolacombe ranks, especially in the high season. They might need that second rank. So I think that could be a question in the consultation. Yes, I was talking. Sorry.
Sorry. No, just hand up.
Yeah.
Okay, I like to think I know Woolacombe quite well, and I reckon I would lose the Barton Lane one and the one outside the Red Barn. I think that's a brilliant idea. And I think maybe in the peak summer period, you'd actually need that second one as a backup one.
Yeah.
So they could keep an eye on the ones that are there. So I'd definitely be losing the one up Barton for sure, but obviously.
But that's so you're talking using it on a seasonal basis then, rather than all year round.
I think all year round, you probably just need the one at the Red Barn, but in the peak season, I think they might still need that one.
Is there a precedent?
Maybe smaller, but maybe that you can put 1 or 2 there, but.
Is there a precedent for having seasonal ranks, or is it all in? Is it all
We can put a seasonal restriction on the ranking if that's need be, and obviously I'm assuming from yourselves you can do it within your the legislation if that's what's determined, that's fine. Obviously it would then free up parking out of season in that location rather than it being a taxi rank, absolutely. And we can certainly look at modifying the timings as requested. There's definitely options there we can look at, and I'm happy to consult on that one. And obviously we'll take a steer from yourselves as to what the trade are after, and then obviously as I said, we're still going to go through the statutory consultation processes before we can make the final decision on that. But
yeah,
I'd like to think that
they all seem reasonable.
Reasonable, so
yeah,
okay, should be accepted, but we know the public can't always that's reasonable. So
okay. So is everyone happy with those proposals then?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take a vote on the 3 recommendations with those amendments. Can I have a proposer?
I'll propose.
And seconder? And please show if you're in favour. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Happy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for attending.
Yeah, thank you so much. Does anyone object to a quick 5-minute adjournment just for a comfort break? Right, thank you very much. We have gone quite long again, haven't we? So let's resume. Okay, so we're going to go back now to item 8, which was the lack of provision of accessible hackney carriage and private hire vehicles in Barnstaple. So back to you, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had a couple of bits of correspondence from members of the public pertaining to wheelchair accessible vehicles particularly, and we had a dialogue, didn't we, Louisa, in terms of what we have done in terms of trying to gain an accessible fleet and what the obligations are on the licensing authority in terms of wheelchair accessible vehicles. And I think this probably warrants a full report to come back. So it's probably just the start of the process and trying to get kind of the direction in terms of the way forward. But the obligations on the local authority are set out in the DfT statutory guidance to us. And that document is the DfT guidance taxing private hire licensing. It's a best practice guidance document for licensing authorities. It was issued in November 2023. And it provides information to licensing authorities in terms of suggestions. And none of this is legislative, but obviously it's best practice. And and we try to follow the best practice guidance as much as we can. In terms of accessibility barriers, obviously many people face physical barriers when accessing transport services, and this may be because the built environment includes features which are difficult for them, such as steps, or it may be because vehicle designs cannot accommodate a particular size of wheelchair. Some barriers to the provision of taxi hire services, ranks provided with inadequate space, to deploy a ramp perhaps, waiting areas lacking seating, or perhaps uneven verges, as we've seen in this location in Woolacombe. And it may be that people can't stand for long periods, or they can't get out of the vehicle so well on an uneven surface, whatever that may be. There might be an inadequate supply of wheelchair accessible vehicles to ensure that passengers can get to travel where they want to. I spoke to a particular lady from Ilfracombe who had COPD. It's obviously really, from a topography point of view, it's very hilly. She was really struggling to get a vehicle at all, let alone a wheelchair accessible vehicle. She didn't need one of those. She just needed a taxi full stop, and was finding that difficult because of drivers perhaps being engaged on school contracts or otherwise, which I think we have quite an issue with. There may be vehicle designs which don't accommodate perhaps larger or heavier vehicles, wheelchairs rather. And then you've got some quite high vehicles that might need to pick up passengers in more complex locations, like the train station, by way of example. So there's lots of different barriers that people may have to endure in terms of getting a vehicle. And the council has obligations on it. There's a public sector equality duty, and we need to make decisions in line with that in terms of our fleet. So there's lots of things that local authorities can do, and it goes without saying that we recently examined this when we were looking at our policy, and the latest policy sought to try and incentivise the uptake of wheelchair accessible vehicles. So private hire vehicles, by way of example at the moment, for a grant of a vehicle have to be Euro 6 or under 5 years old. However, if it's a wheelchair accessible vehicle, we made a decision not to have that requirement, and that we went with Euro 5 for diesels, Euro 4 for petrols. And similarly on renewals, there is a requirement from the 1st of January 2026 that they are Euro 6. So the trade have been aware of that for quite some time, and we need to keep publicising that that's something that's coming in 2026. But in terms of the standard for wheelchair accessible vehicles in January 2026, we further incentivised to say that it will be fine for wheelchair accessible vehicles to be Euro 5 diesel, Euro 4 petrol. Ultimately, those changes, obviously they're not fully in effect, not reached the 1st of January 2026, haven't made any difference. And actually, the number of wheelchair accessible vehicles now is probably the lowest, isn't it, for quite a considerable period, unfortunately. And we have to be open and transparent about that. What we've done hasn't necessarily worked. The best practice guidance talks about trying to incentivise, which obviously this is, and it talks about actually trying to incentivise and reduce fees. The issue with fees is that you can't charge the rest of the trade higher level of fee to incentivise wheelchair accessible vehicles being brought into the fleet. We would have to have that coming from central funds, so there has to be a pot of money associated with that. We can't charge the trade more for their application than it physically costs them. So there's no way of doing that, and that would be something that we would be on very sticky territory if we were to introduce from a legislative point of view because of the case law associated with that. So it's really something that we need to get a way forward. The other thing to say is that from a local authority perspective, the best practice guidance talks about us having an inclusive service plan. And I don't think we're quite there in terms of setting out such a plan. It talks about authorities surveying the trade in terms of the potential vehicle passengers that have disabilities, and doing that every 5 years and building an understanding of the extent to which vehicles and services provided by taxis support the needs of all those passengers, whether driver training needs are being met and so on and so forth. So I think there is work to be done. Subsequent to us discussing this, we've raised the issue at our Devon Licensing Officers group to see what surveys other local authorities have done. And we're not alone, because there's no one coming back to say that they've done a comprehensive survey on this. Exeter had done some work in going to living options, I believe it was, in terms of looking at some suggestions in terms of incentives, very much along the lines of what we've done. And I understand that, I think it was Torbay, I'll have to get some information from my colleague, had put in place incentives in terms of fees by way of certificates, but it had made no difference. And I can get some more information about that, because that is something that we only just got information on last week by way of a training event that a colleague went to. So there's not a vast deal of momentum in Devon in this area, so we're not alone, but nonetheless, it doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't be doing something. I think it probably needs another report, but in the interim, it may be interesting just to explore an informal basis whether anyone has any additional ideas and way forward.
Okay, so we also have misfortune that I think there was a company called Driving Miss Daisy, which did provide that specific service, and they've now gone out of business. So that clearly shows there is a lack of, profit to be made perhaps in the particular area. I'm also aware of specific services like Mid Devon Council Mid Devon Mobility have taken on the old Go North Devon Ring and Ride service, which I know is for people over a certain age. And I know this lady who emailed, I don't know what her age was, but she just wanted to be able to get a taxi that would fit her wheelchair so she could just live her life and do the normal things and get somewhere, which is obviously not what Ring and Ride is about. Those are specific outings and things like that. There's also DAS, which is Devon Access to Services, and they run the community transport services. So whether there is any potential for a commission of some form of ring and pick up the phone and request the taxi through them, I don't know. That's all I'm aware of in terms of accessible vehicles and transport. And obviously age concern offers some services again, but that's for older people. So I don't know if anyone else has got any further ideas that they could bring forward. And I don't know if there's an authority we can commission anything ourselves along those lines.
I mean,
I don't know.
Spoken to some of the larger companies in Dartford. We have spoken to general drivers, especially in relation to there is a shortage of wheelchair accessible vehicles. The trade don't like necessarily investment in buying these expensive vehicles, which are then only available for those clients. So in terms of, they're restricted then. That's one issue. What some of them don't like the health and safety elements, the time it takes, sadly, for these customers, and that means that they can't do other jobs, which they argue. Another thing they argue, in fact, is that some of the mobility type scooters and that they don't like taken apart, putting back together. Because there's a risk. And some of those have, it's different, the purpose-built wheelchairs, because they go into a vehicle and they're secured, but they don't like dealing with that. And a lot of them are, even though they work for companies, a lot of the drivers now are virtually self-employed, or they take the bookings through there, and they just want as much business, without, sadly, the ability to, necessarily take on the disability work on that one there. You did mention a company, I don't particularly want to mention that company, but it looks like we might have lost 3 vehicles for Barnstable, but it looks like those vehicles may be coming back into service as wheelchair accessible vehicles.
Okay.
So that may be a positive, which, I can't say much more on it, but that may happen. But really, in terms of wheelchair provision, I think we've got 2 companies in South Molton. We've got an operator in Ilfracombe, and now hopefully we're going to have 3 vehicles in Barnstable, but we've probably got less than 10 wheelchair accessible vehicles. And the other issue as well is that if they are used as school contracts as well, during that period of time in the morning and the afternoon, then again you're restricted for wheelchair, and it's a really sad, that people can't get out, and we've tried to incentivize fees, but in all honesty, people haven't taken up the margin on that. Reducing vehicle age has brought an operator into Ilfracombe to do it, but it's very difficult, And it's very difficult for other local authorities, the Devon Licensing Officer Group. I mean, Exeter, Plymouth and things like that, where they have specific wheelchair accessible hackney carriage vehicles. Obviously, it's probably easier for them, you know, and if all those hackney carriage vehicles are wheelchair accessible, then they've got that facility, but we don't, you know, we don't have that in the
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Councillor Norman.
I would imagine that without these contracts, schools, NHS, dialysis, or a lot of taxi drivers wouldn't even be in existence.
No, they wouldn't. They rely
on that bread and butter.
Yeah, that's
and it's
you know,
green.
and I think there is a market.
Yes.
You know, and that's what I think it's very short-sighted, you know, but at the end of the day, it's them that are making the investment in it. But I definitely think we get people ringing and writing and emailing that, you know, the lack of wheelchair facilities.
Because the pertinent point Phil raises, because as a private hire vehicle, they can charge what we call dead mileage.
Yes.
Whereas a hackney carriage, a taxi cannot by law. So they can put the meter on, you know, in essence, a lot of them, they're not obligated to have a meter, but when they start and they can kind of encompass the charge for loading and unloading and doing all of those additional services, and you know, as part of their fee, because in essence, they can make that negotiation as a 3-book journey as to what they like. They're not obligated to the maximum tariff that's applicable for hackney carriage vehicles, and obviously they can't discriminate against members of the public, and you know the duty on taxis, which was expanded, and there's a bit of legislation that came out, which is the Taxi and Private Hire Vehicle Disabled Persons Act that came into effect in 2022. That put obligations on the drivers that they can't discriminate. You know, they can't refuse assistance dogs. They can't refuse to you know, take someone by way of the fact that it's going to take longer to load them and unload them, and so on and so forth. But it also put obligations on the council for having a list of our vehicles that are accessible and making that information available in an accessible way on our website. And you know, there's a level of awkwardness surrounding that, because as Phil's alluded to, I think there's probably 7 vehicles or whatever.
I mean, is there a list of those vehicles? Because how would someone know who to call, which taxi firms to call?
It's on our website.
Oh, it's on the website, perfect. Right.
If you've got the internet.
Yes.
And it's difficult as well, more than if you really live in a rural locality, then, you know, the cost of that service for a vehicle, obviously leaving Barnstable to go there, pick up that person, bring them back is a greater cost. You know, really, Ilfracombe, Barnstable and South Molton, in some respect, covered by a small provision of wheelchair accessible vehicles. But if you really live out in the sticks.
And again, it in a sense, although I understand the extra work, and it actually penalises the disabled person. He's probably got less money than the average person. Anyway, so it's kind of
it's vicious.
The whole system is not fit, really, is it?
Yeah.
I just wonder whether in part of the report, are there any national sort of disability charities or something, or bodies that we could, you know, see if they have any information? This can't be just a local issue. This has got to be a national issue, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point. We can make approach to some form of national charity and see, you know,
see if they have any sort of advice or suggestions or experience. Anyone else we could perhaps speak to?
So, Chair, almost feels as though, you know, as a licensing authority, we are failing a group of people out there if we don't do something. So I don't think it can be shelved. I think it's quite, you know, when it's as drastic as this, I think we need to, as the licensing authority, do something about it. So I don't think we can like put it off and put it off. We are failing people out there, and if they're because there was another taxi. I think it was just a person that had just one vehicle, taxi driver that did take mobility and vehicles, and then the company you mentioned, I think, took a lot of the work and was obviously and that other person, the first person, then lost custom. So that one went, and then you're telling me that this one's gone as well. So that's in the last couple of years, we've lost 2 companies that actually would take wheelchair users, and not everybody, like you said, Kate, is in a wheelchair,
No.
but they need a car that will take them, in COPD, they might have got oxygen with them, they might, and
Extra needs, yeah.
So it's not just wheelchair people, and we shouldn't just put them in that one bracket that's always a wheelchair, but they need a car that is easy to get into. But I do think that's quite, what you're saying is quite urgent, and as a licensing committee, I think we really need to, we're failing people.
Stepped away from our responsibilities, and we did consider this quite closely when we made those incentives by way of the policy, and we're now reacting to the fact, well, that hasn't got us to the position where perhaps we would like to be, and the changes that will come into effect in 2026, which will further incentivise this position, are a long way down the road. So yes, we can have an interim measure, but as I've said, with the fees, that's very difficult unless there are funds available, and where that has been undertaken in terms of providing incentive financially, then we can find out a little bit more that actually it sounds like that's not worked either. So it's not the ultimate panacea then.
So if we could monitor those, let's say those 3 taxis that you think might come back into circulation and see whether they do, that's something we can keep an eye on.
Well, they're a certain colour, aren't they? So we'll.
Well, they could be resprayed.
We'll see them.
I'm aware of another company that are offering companionship services, which would include things like hospital appointments and so on and so forth, which wouldn't necessarily be required to be licensed. And when we would receive an application or query pertaining to that type of operation, we would have to go back to statutory guidance and legislation to ascertain whether that requires a licence or not, because there are subtleties always in terms of business operation. We've got people that operated safaris, by way of example, where we've done a similar process and ascertained, does that need a licence? Did Parliament intend that to have a licence, and then make a decision and document that? So you may see vehicles that offer companion services that aren't licensed because that's not overall their business, and they will provide care and other such services to their clients. But at the same time, they will offer lifts if they need to go to the doctors or otherwise. So it's not to say that those businesses don't operate and haven't got clients that they are moving around from A to B.
There are a lot of different types of client, aren't there, as well as the one from the lady that's just wants a taxi that she can just get her wheelchair in. So yeah, there are a lot of nuances to that. So any further comments? Right, can we just note the report then at this stage? Anyone have to propose it? And second, and all in favour, just to note what we said today, what we're going to do moving forwards.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really.
We'll bring that forward in another meeting.
So it's nice to get ideas from others, because unless you have dialogues around these issues, there may be things that we've not considered as officers, because clearly there's a need to address this and look at new innovative ways to deal with the situation.
When the North Devon Voluntary Services would have
Well, that's the Devon Access Community Transport that I mentioned. So, and Councillor Leatherby?
Can I say, in Martin, we approached the company to do with disabled access, so we wanted to get disabled people onto the beach. So we wanted a new wheelchair, so they supplied us with a new wheelchair. Now, I know that doesn't sound a lot, but these wheelchairs are like £6,000, and they just give us one just like that. But I'm trying to find the name of the company to see whether or not they might be, because it's to do with disabled people accessing, whether or not you could get some funding off them or something. But they seem to have a fair bit of money, so do this.
Yes, I mean, the problem is.
What I'll do is I'll speak to the clerk and then maybe get them to message something over to you.
Great. Amazing, and any kind of contacts like that to explore this would be useful. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. Happy to move on then. Item 10, future meeting dates of the Licensing and Community Safety Committee. Recommended to approve the following future dates of the Licensing and Community Safety Committee. There were two dates there. I believe it was the 4th of November and the 3rd of February, which are actually the week before, due to there being a clash on the same day with the Harbour Board. And obviously we have a member and an officer who attends both. So if everyone's happy with those dates, bar those two being the week before. Is there anything else to say on that, Leanna?
Just that although this is to be recommended here, it will have to be recommended on the council. Sorry, I didn't make that clear
Yes.
at the time and.
Yeah, that will be in the January meeting, I think. January full council, yeah. So we're approving this obviously to go
I
forward
want
to that.
just to be aware of those
Yeah.
two changes.
Yes.
What happened with it.
So if everyone's happy, I'll just move seconder and vote to approve. Everyone in favour?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Doing that.
And that's the meeting closed, I think. Thank you very much, everyone. Right. Just good timing.
But, yeah, going back. Oh, yes. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. For the,